Today, we have been celebrating 20 years of progress in neuroendocrine cancer research and treatment. NETRF is here to ensure this progress continues. We need more treatments and ultimately cures. It is now my pleasure to introduce Dr. Anna Greene, NETRF's Director of Research. Dr. Greene leads our research program, works with our Board of Scientific Advisors, and reports impact and outcomes to our community. Dr. Greene will talk about new frontiers in advancing and strengthening research and NETRF's roadmap for the future.
Hi everyone, my name is Anna Greene and I am the Director of Research at the Neuroendocrine Tumor Research Foundation. And today I'm going to talk about advancing and strengthening research and what it means for the neuroendocrine cancer community. So NETRF has a two-part mission. We support patients, families, and caregivers affected by neuroendocrine cancer by providing very credible and trustworthy education materials. We also fund research to discover cures and more effective treatments for neuroendocrine cancers because we're trying to work toward a world where neuroendocrine cancers are both understood and curable. And so NETRF has been having a global impact since 2005. This is our 20th year anniversary, and we're proud to say that we are the largest nonprofit funder of neuroendocrine cancer research globally. We've invested nearly $40 million in research across 76 institutions in 17 countries. And we've also supported patients over those 20 years with trustworthy education materials. And so we drive research forward by funding cutting-edge basic and translational science with the goal of advancing our understanding and the treatment of neuroendocrine neoplasms, called NENs, or neuroendocrine cancer. Both of these are umbrella terms for neuroendocrine tumors, NETs, and neuroendocrine carcinomas, NECs. And so we have funded research across different primary sites over our 20 years as well, such as the pancreas, the gastrointestinal tract, the lungs, etc. And this broad approach is intentional. So learning something in one type of NET can inform how we approach it in others. And sometimes it even has ripple effects beyond NETs. So a good example of this is PRRT. This was developed and approved for use in NETs, but now it's being used in prostate cancer. And so we know it's important to continue research in neuroendocrine cancer because this disease is very complex and heterogeneous. It's a diverse group of cancers that remain under-researched. We know that there are limited effective treatments, so current therapeutic approaches have limitations, and this creates an urgent need for novel targeted therapies. There are also funding disparities, so even though neuroendocrine cancers have a rising incidence rate, they receive disproportionately less research funding compared to other cancer types. And so NETRF steps in to help fill this gap. And further, we know that there is an urgency now for more research funding. So the National Institutes of Health is the largest biomedical research funder in the world, such as for cancer research, but they've faced funding cuts this year, and there are more funding cuts proposed for next year. And so the urgency for funding is clear, and NETRF is a lifeline for researchers so that the discoveries don't stall. And so we've talked a little bit about the research that we fund, basic and translational research. But why does this matter? How do we know that it works? And so we can look at a very simple metric, the 3-year overall survival of patients, and look at that over time to see how it's changed. And so if we look at the overall survival from the years 2000 to 2004, we see that the overall survival was about 50% of patients. But if you look at 2015 to 2018, we can see that the overall survival rose to 85%, and that's a significant increase in overall survival. And so if we look at the treatments on the right, these are treatments that have been approved for NETs. You can see that most of them were approved after 2010. And so this correlates quite well with the increase in overall survival. But treatments don't just happen. They happen because of decades of research. And so we know it's very important to keep research going so that we can discover the next group of treatments for neuroendocrine cancer. And so if we take a look at our grant program, we fund basic and translational research at about 92% of our portfolio. And you can see this in the pie chart on the left. About 8% of our portfolio is focused on clinical research. If you look at the pie chart on the right, you can see the number of grants funded per primary site. And so you can see a range of colors here representing the different primary sites that we've funded over the years. Because as I stated before, it's very important to fund research that focuses on multiple types of neuroendocrine cancer, but it's also really important to fund research on specific types of primary sites. And so when I say that NETRF funds basic and translational research, what does that mean? So basic research is the building blocks of our knowledge. This discovers biological fundamentals of disease. So what causes neuroendocrine cancer to start? What's causing it to progress or metastasize? And what are some pathways that we can target to better treat it? Translational research then aims to move those discoveries from basic research toward the clinic. So this is where a treatment might be optimized. It might be tested in laboratory and animal models so that you can evaluate dosing and side effects before moving it toward clinical trials. And so clinical trials are the last phase of this biomedical research spectrum, and it occurs over phase 1, phase 2, and phase 3 trials. And these trials look at the safety and efficacy of these new therapies because we want drugs to be both safe for patients, but they also need to be effective. And so that's the purpose of these trials. And at the end, if a drug is safe and effective, it could be approved for use in humans. And so just like NETRF funds research across different primary sites, we also fund research across different grant categories. And this is because we recognize that researchers have different needs for their research funding. And so we have 5 different categories that we fund in. So we have an accelerator award, which is our largest award, that's really trying to pull together multi-investigators across different institutions for collaborative work that tackles very large neuroendocrine cancer problems. We also have an investigator award, which provides individual or maybe 2 researchers funding to pursue promising studies in neuroendocrine cancer. We have a pilot award, which is designed for high risk and high reward projects. And so this is for ideas that may not have a lot of preliminary data yet, but they're really promising ideas. And so this award really helps to fill that gap. We have a mentored research award because it's really important to us to build the pipeline of neuroendocrine cancer researchers because we need a very stable workforce to pursue these challenging problems in neuroendocrine cancer research. And so this award supports postdocs and clinical fellows that are just getting started in neuroendocrine cancer research. And we also have a couple of different collaborative awards where we fund early career scientists. And so when we fund research, we're not writing a blank check to an institution or a researcher. We have a very rigorous process for selecting grant recipients. And so this process starts by issuing what is called a request for applications. You can see this on the left. So we issue this RFA that lets scientists know that we have grant funding, and it tells them what we're looking for and how to apply. We then receive applications and we send them out for review with a very expert group of scientific reviewers because it's really important that we have a process that is rigorous and that allows for the selection of the best science possible. And so after these applications are peer reviewed, we meet on a review call with the scientists who discuss the applications. They provide scores and comments, and then we're able to select the grants we want to fund. And this is based on, again, these scores, the comments, and also NETRF's programmatic needs. And so from there, they have to go to our full board of directors for approval. And so once we award the funding, our work doesn't end there. So we have a process where we monitor the grants. And so this involves receiving reports every 6 months on the research progress. We also have outcomes reports after the grant ends. So we continue to ask for updates for 5 years after a grant ends. And we also have an annual research symposium where we ask our researchers to present their results. So we closely monitor these grants to make sure they're doing the work that they're supposed to do, as well as to see what exciting outcomes come from it. And then we're able to share that with our community. Our RFA process has traditionally been what we call a wide net approach. And this means we don't tell scientists specifically what we're looking for in terms of science. So we bring in all kinds of ideas to select the best science possible. But we've realized that to really move the needle for patients with neuroendocrine cancer, we needed to create a more strategic research roadmap, which is a focused plan to address the most urgent and unmet needs in neuroendocrine cancer research. And so, as part of this effort, we identified 3 core areas where progress is most needed and where research can have a real impact. And that's early detection, better treatments, and precision medicine. And so for early detection, one of the largest challenges for NETs is how long it takes to get a diagnosis. So on average, patients see about 12 healthcare providers over 4 years before getting the correct diagnosis. About 50% of patients are misdiagnosed initially, and by that point, about half have already metastasized. And so that's a major problem, but also a major opportunity. So if we can detect NETs earlier, we can intervene sooner and ideally cure them surgically to improve outcomes for patients. For better treatments, we're grateful that we have an arsenal of treatments for neuroendocrine cancer that have come about in the last 15 years or so. But current treatments don't cure the disease, they stabilize the disease. And so many patients can live with NETs as a chronic condition, which makes effective and tolerable treatments critically important. And so our roadmap prioritizes the development of new therapies that go beyond disease control, pushing toward better options for patients. And finally, the third pillar of our research roadmap is precision medicine. And so we know that NET patients are not all the same. They respond differently to the same treatments and experience different side effects and outcomes. Research has discovered biological subtypes that may one day guide treatment decisions. So our goal is to advance research that helps tailor care to each patient based on the tumor's biology and their individual characteristics. And so the goal of our research roadmap is to guide our funding strategy so that we can catalyze the breakthroughs that patients need. And so we've talked about our wide net approach to funding research. We've talked about our research roadmap. And so that really guides the future of neuroendocrine cancer research at NETRF. But I want to take a moment and really talk about the progress we've made over the last 2 decades. So research that we've funded have discovered for the first time new mutations in NETs, such as DAX and ATRX in pancreatic NETs, or CDKN1B in small intestinal NETs. Our research has funded work that has discovered new lung NET subtypes, and one in particular called supracarcinoids. We funded work on next generation radioligand therapies with actinium and terbium. We funded work that has developed new NET models, which are really important for scientists to study neuroendocrine cancer in the laboratory. And so we've funded work that have discovered new NET models, such as low-grade lung NET organoid models. The research we funded has validated new targets. So for tumors that don't express somatostatin, there is an unmet need to find new targets. And so one of those is UPAR, and it's heading to clinical trial. We funded work on PRRT radiosensitizers. So these are therapies that aim to improve PRRT for patients, and this has now gone to clinical trial as well. And we've also funded all the preclinical work in the first CAR T cell therapy that's now in clinical trial in the US. And so we're very excited about the work we funded, but we're also excited about the future and what those next generation therapies look like. And so NETRF is committed to funding research until this disease is eradicated. And so just a few of those areas, this isn't all inclusive, but a few areas we're excited about are next generation radioligand therapies. So alpha emitters such as actinium or lead to improve PRRT. There's a new terbium radioligand therapy and also improvements to lutetium dotatate or PRRT as we know it today. There are targeted treatments in the pipeline, so new tyrosine kinase inhibitors. For example, cabozantinib is one that was just approved this year. There are other inhibitors such as RET, NTRK, FGFR for molecularly selected patients. And then there are other targets such as DLL3, UPAR, FAP, FA2, and others under investigation that we're really excited about. And finally, we're really excited to see what happens with immunotherapies. So checkpoint inhibition for neuroendocrine carcinomas, CDH17 CAR T for gastrointestinal nets, and other therapies such as TILs, BiTEs, and antibody drug conjugates. So research doesn't exist in a vacuum at NETRF. There are ways for you, for patients, care partners to get involved in research. And here are just a few ideas. So every year we send out a Know Your Net survey where we ask for the community to contribute valuable data on what you're interested in. And we do read through all of this information to help develop our patient education programs. It also helps inform our research programs in terms of the problems that patients are most interested in solving. There are ways to join patient registries and biobanks for biospecimen donations. You can enroll in clinical trials to test new treatments, but these things, of course, should be discussed with your medical team. There are ways to share your voice, so you can speak at events to raise awareness about neuroendocrine cancer. You can create personal content through blogs and videos and social media about the disease to raise awareness. You can also take leadership. You can join nonprofit boards or grant review panels, engage in legislative advocacy for research funding. You can organize fundraising events like awareness walks or local gatherings. And if you have any questions about how to get involved, you can always reach out to us. And finally, our commitment to you is to have a focused investment in neuroendocrine cancer. Our strategic research roadmap ensures that our every research dollar addresses the most critical gaps in neuroendocrine cancer understanding and treatment. Second, we have a patient-centered approach, so we have ongoing education and support for patients, and this is integral to our mission and complements our research initiatives. You can also join our mission, and together we can accelerate progress toward better treatments, improve quality of life, and ultimately a cure for neuroendocrine cancer. And I want to thank you for your attention and support today. And finally, I want to leave you with my contact information, Anna Greene, anna.greene@netrf.org, and feel free to reach out if you have any questions. Thank you.